interview with Paul the Beeman Cronshaw on March 18th, 2012. Paul, we're going to start with a couple questions. What kind of person tends bees?
Anybody can tend bees, okay? But mostly it's a person who wants to save the bees because they've heard about this thing about the colony collapse, and so they're looking for a way to at least save the bees from going extinct, so to speak. And so they have that aspect. The other thing is they want to save the bees is because they're interested in urban beekeeping. They want some bees in their backyard to pollinate flowers and to pollinate other plants. And they want it for the honey, too. So you can either be a gardener, you can be an outdoors person. I think you can just be about anybody because there's no profession that says you have to be a beekeeper.
Okay. And what kind of benefits can bees have on a community?
Oh, lots of benefits. I mean, my garden right here, for example, my neighbors, the trees are all blossoming right now, so the bees are pollinating their fruit trees, and they're happy that I have bees around. They always like to, they say thank you every day that I have bees to pollinate their trees. So that's one thing. The other thing is for honey, for honey, production of honey, so that they can use it instead of sugar. So that's another benefit.
You say pollinator. What is a pollinator?
A pollinator is a insect that travels from one flower to another, and on its body it carries pollen. So it's actually fertilizing the flowers that are important for creating fruits.
Okay. And that is one benefit, but are there any overlooked benefits?
Any other looked benefits that bees have for the area here? Well, there's health benefits because a lot of products that the bees use or products that bees make, humans can use. Everything from royal jelly to propolis to honey to pollen to bee venom and even food. You can actually eat baby bees.
And then people are always scared about getting stung by bees. Is that a complete misconception that they're not, stingers shouldn't hurt, or what's the actual danger of bees?
We call it sting phobia, and usually it's something that a person very young has stepped on a bee's nest or got stung by a bee and it hurts. So they actually get very phobic about bees. And yes, they should be cautious about bees because some people are allergic, and which means that they will swell. People can also go into anaphylactic shock and die too, but that's very, very, very rare. It's usually the inflammation that happens, and it itches and it's unpleasant, and so people equate bees with bad things because they're going to hurt me. But actually, once you get used to using them and playing with them and working with them, the fear goes away.
And you work with honeybees, not africanized honeybees.
Honeybees is a general term, but there's many different races of bees. There's European bees, which is what we have here in Santa Barbara because they came here in the 1800s. The africanized honeybees came from Africa via the South America, and so they are here in Santa Barbara, but they've hybridized with the European honeybees too. We have a mix. We call it the Santa Barbara bee.
Are there different kinds of bees apart from those two?
Between those two, no, the Apis mellifera is the honeybee, and there's other bee species in the world. There's Apis cerana, which is in Malaysia, I think, down in Indonesia, and there's other subspecies of bees, but Apis mellifera is the main one that we tend to work with as far as beekeeping.
What's your background with bees?
Background bees, well, that's a long story. I can shorten it to a small sentence here. I began when I was in high school at Santa Barbara High School. I read an article about a beekeeper up on, where is he? Up on the Mesa, Len Schnellenberg. I remember his name. They wrote an article on him, and I read the article and didn't think too much of it. Stuck it away in my car glove compartment, and then one day I was going through my glove compartment. I found the article again, and I started reading it. I go, oh, this is cool. Light bulb went off in the head. I got to do this. So as a result, I had to find some equipment. Where do I buy equipment from? Nobody told me where that is. We didn't have the internet back in those days, so you couldn't just go online and order it. So what I did was I found that the Sears catalog, Sears had a catalog on farming. So I ordered my first set of equipment from Sears, and I built it here in this backyard. And this roof up here used to have a flat roof, and this was my room. And I grew up in this room here. I had a separate door over here where I could come and go. I loved it, as a high school student with my own privacy and everything. And so I had a ladder that went up to the top there, and I had the flat roof, and I put my beehive on top of the roof. And as a result of that, I used to come home, instead of doing my homework, I'd climb up here, and I'd look at this empty box, and I go, okay, now I got this bees. What am I going to do? So again, looked in the catalog. Oh, Sears, I can buy bees. Sears catalog. So they came from They came, where'd I get them from? Mississippi. Oh, okay, I got to order them from Mississippi. Didn't know anybody around here. You know. So I got a call one day, I think my mother called me. She says, hey, the postman's coming today. You better come home from school quickly because he's going to deliver your bees. And I go, yeah, my bees are going to come. So here it is. I'm waiting in the front porch over here for my bee guy to show, the postman to show up. And he comes out and he has his basket, a box of bees, and he says, here, get these out of my truck. And they're buzzing all day long, driving crazy. And he hands them to me and he turns around and runs away. And so I go, yeah. So I got my bees and I walked up the ladder, climbed up the ladder, opened up the box, turned the box over, shook them in, and I have been keeping bees ever since that one day. So that's how I got started, what, 40 years ago plus?
In Santa Barbara.
In Santa Barbara, yeah.
So now there's a Santa Barbara association?
Yes, we call it, I started teaching classes because, nobody knew anything about bees. So me being a teacher by profession, I decided, well, I'll go ahead and teach bees. So Fairview Gardens approached me a year ago. Yes, about a year ago this time. And I taught my first basic beekeeping class. And there was a gentleman in the class who happens to be a contractor. And he knew a lot about organizations. And he says, you know what? I think we need to start a beekeeping association. I said, okay, not wanting to do anything more in my life because I was spread pretty thin. He said, let's go do it. So he did all the paperwork, followed the whole thing like that. And so we created actually, the Santa Barbara Beekeepers Association, www.sbba.org. And from there, it's like, just growing. We get donations, we get contributions, and we're all turning it around into education. That's what it's all about, is educating other people. Because when I remember 40 years ago, nobody taught me anything about that. Look at a catalog.
So that's your motivation?
Education is basically it's to help stimulate the rise of what's called urban beekeeping, which is people keeping bees in their backyard.
Okay. And what's the hardest part of urban beekeeping, or beekeeping in general?
Hardest part is answering everybody's questions, because everybody has lots and lots of questions. also, trying not to have people understand that you shouldn't fuss over bees. They've been around for millions of years, and you don't want to fuss over them. Just let them do their thing here. And that's probably been the hardest one, because everybody has lots of questions and they want to fuss over the bees. So I tell them, nope, just let them be, pun intended, and they'll do just fine.
Right. So, and what's the most rewarding part?
The most rewarding part is just to go by a hive and watch the bees go in and out, in and out. It's like therapy. You just watch them go in and out, bringing the pollen in, and it's just something mesmerizing about the bees. And also getting the honey out of it too. I think people realize that, gosh, I produced this product and it's mine. I can share it with anybody. I can eat it myself. The honey aspect is really good. But it's just something about they're just wonderful creatures.
Mm-hmm. And if someone wanted to start keeping bees as an urban beekeeper, or just in their backyard somewhere, what's the cost and how would they go about?
Best thing to do is to to find someone in our organization, for example, and then sit down and talk with them. The second thing is to take the beekeeping class. I'm teaching beekeeping classes now at Fairview Gardens. You can also look at YouTube. You can read books on it. But the other thing is to join a group of beekeepers. We meet up once a month if we can at an apiary and just put a suit on and just go out and just look into a hive. And then dive in. The cost is approximately $200, $250. Initial cost to buy the box, the veil, the smoker, and from then on, it's you've already made the investment, and it lasts a long time.
And what are some common mistakes one should avoid when constructing a hive?
Common mistakes. Well, let's see now. Constructing a hive, first of all, is putting all the parts together again. Sometimes that can be tricky because you put everything together like an erector set and you're left with one part. You go, oh my gosh, I forgot to put it. Where does this piece go? So it would be to join a group of people to put them together in what we call a hive making day. Another thing to avoid is, let's see now, probably not having the right protective clothing, getting stung a few times. So buying a jacket, full suit, the right kind of course, protective clothing. And the other thing is finding a good place for bees. Sometimes people pick the wrong place. They put them on an oak tree, they put them in a sunny spot. That could be a problem also. And then not buying enough equipment and having an extra piece of equipment on hand, because the beehives grow. They're like Lego blocks. You start with one hive, then you go to 2 parts to it, then you end up with 3. And if you don't have the right equipment around, the bees will swarm on you, and then they bug the neighbors because they end up in the neighbor's tree.
So why do they swarm?
Why they swarm here? What happens is when you don't have enough room in a beehive, it's like not having enough room in your house. They get a little antsy and they have to end up splitting. So the old queen will leave and take half the bees, and she leaves behind one of her daughters, who also may leave with another after swarm and leave behind another daughter. And so after a couple of times, what's left is just one daughter and just a handful of bees. And then from then on, they grow, but the mother queen is gone, so she continues to perpetuate. So it's just the way they split.
And you go out and collect those swarms?
Yep, I do go out and collect them. I love collecting swarms.
Humane removal? Is
Yep,
that right?
yep, exactly. We do it as a community service. We don't charge for it, and we just take a bucket or a box or some clippers, and the bees are hanging off a tree, and what we do is we shake it in a box, and before you know it, the bees love that new home, and you've got yourself a bees, and that's how many people have started.
So how do people go about contacting you if a swarm needs to be removed?
They can do it over the internet, www.sbba.org, or there's a phone number that is on that site, which I don't have memorized, but you can also call, and that goes to a bee rescue hotline. And someone answers the phone, and usually we parcel it out to various people who are in different areas. We've got beekeepers in Carpinteria, beekeepers in Goleta, Montecito, Santa Barbara, who are more than happy to come out and collect the swarm, because they don't want them to be exterminated, or they don't want them moving into your house like in the attic. They love attics.